Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00. Just before we get started, I thought I'd just update you all on a few changes to the channel and the wider Installation 00 empire. To skip this, go to the overview chapter or the timestamp on screen now, but I warn you, you'll be missing out. Patreon has seen an update in the tiers with new perks coming online in due course. So be sure to pop across and check out the new layout and all the new awesome perks you could be getting if you jump on as a patron. I pride myself on my Patreon being one of the most generous in regards to what you get out of it, so make sure you're not missing out. We have a rapidly growing Discord where you can find me lurking, and we have weekly voice and video chats about Halo, the universe, and much, much more. We have a web store over at installation00.co.uk where we are just about getting ready to put out a whole new inventory of new Halo themed goodies. The merch store below this video and over at Teespring has a ton of Halo and Installation 00 themed apparel, and we have 3 other channels that you can find in the channels page here on YouTube. You'll find the Local Multiverse where I cover other game universes, the 00 Lounge where I talk about practically anything that takes my fancy, and Ambient Wonders for long-form study, relaxation, meditation and sleep music from the Halo universe. So be sure to check out all the awesome stuff that Installation 00 is doing. Thanks for sticking with me while I harmlessly plugged all the stuff we're doing right now. And now, back to the video at hand. I've been looking forward to researching, learning, developing and writing this script for a long time. After 6 years, we finally have another Halo campaign, and with it comes heaps of new lore to disseminate and analyse. I started my channel only a few years ago, and my unique selling point, or the thing that made me stand out, was my insane levels of detail when breaking down different aspects of the Halo universe, with particular emphasis on Mjolnir-powered assault armour. Well, it brings me immense joy to return to these roots. As with every other most detailed breakdown, we will take an in-depth look and analyse every layer and major component as and when we come to it. While the vast majority of the information I will provide is sourced directly from the game or associated media such as the Halo novels, there are some aspects of the suit that only small amounts of information are available on, so I will use reference material informed by my experience in electronic and computer engineering, computer science and material science to add additional information where necessary, and as always, I will make it abundantly clear where the lore ends and my speculative musings begin. So with all that said and done, it fills me with immense joy and pride to deliver to you at long last my most detailed breakdown of the MJOLNIR Gen3 platform. Mjolnir Powered Assault Armor Gen 3 is the third major innovation in the now legendary line of armor systems technology developed by the United Nations Space Command. Worn exclusively by the Spartan super soldiers, this immensely powerful systems platform brings together huge innovations from all corners of humanity, and frequently has been responsible for immense leaps in technological innovation that would cycle into wider use by the rest of humanity, where they would see further innovations and implementations then being reintegrated into the project to continue to push forward its spiral development methodology. The suit represents a culmination of over 30 years of continued development, and has refined the Gen 3 platform to be the flagship model of the Mjolnir line. Weighing in at 400 kilograms, the Gen 3 took battlefield diagnostics, performance, telemetry and feedback from Spartan operatives from the Gen 1 and Gen 2 platforms respectively, and used this data to inform the development of the Gen 3 platform. The Gen 3 has adopted the superior protection and raw power of the Gen 1 platform with the modularity and cross-compatibility of the Gen 2 platform. Given there are now 3 distinct classes of Spartans, the Spartan 2s, 3s and 4s, each with their own unique augmentation sets, and thus varying overall performance characteristics, the Gen 3 is developed to be able to symbiotically adapt to all of these differences and even out the capabilities overall without reducing operational effectiveness in any one capacity or to the detriment of any one of the Spartan classes. As demonstrated during the events of Operation Wolf when John 117 was injured in his quadricep from Banshee plasma fire and scaled the assist ratio so his muscles didn't have to work at all, is a testament to the Gen 3's ability to scale based on capability and performance. The Gen 3 has been made available to all currently operational Spartans from every class, and has brought the gold standard of Spartan armor systems to a single powerful platform that entirely meets the needs of all Spartans and allows enough headroom to continue to push themselves past what is widely accepted as being Spartan base normal. So let's take a look at the Gen 3 platform and the immense innovations that have culminated to create the best in class Mjolnir Powered Assault Armor. The inner skin suit is a tight compression layer covering all of the body including feet and hands. It is a moisture wicking layer designed to draw sweat away from the body and is also filled with temperature sensors that link to the Hydrostatic Gel layer for temperature regulation. It links directly to the occupant's Spartan neural interface to gain important telemetry from the user's body, as well as various human interface systems including permanent intravenous ports for medical and nanomachine administration, including biofoam and catheters for waste recycling and disposal. It also features over a dozen hardpoints. These small metallic components serve as the connection point between the inner skin suit and Mjolnir's tech suit, while also being a hermetically sealed feed-through for the sensors, electronic suites, and other peripheral systems to bridge the gap between the user and the suit without compromising the suit's pressure seals. The Gen 3 tech suit is made of a nanoscale titanium alloy composite. It is highly flexible but very strong, adding additional protection from ballistic and energy-based projectiles. It is coated in a heat-refractive coating, likely something akin to a polymerized aerogel, being capable of withstanding immense heat from directed energy weapons as well as the heat of re-entry into a planet's atmosphere. The suit features black, hard armor plating on the chest and back, shoulders, lumbar, groin, inner thighs, forearms and lower legs, with numerous structural hardpoints located across its surface both on the armor plating and the softer composite pieces, that all link to an internal substructure tracking and act as the primary connection points of the armored exoskeleton. These are designed to be the main connection interface between the heavy outer plating and the more flexible body suit. The plates are bolted onto these anchor points via custom-tooled, tamper-proof bolts. These structural hardpoints redirect the weight of the armor plates through an internal substructure, meaning that the wearer doesn't feel the weight of the suit. The Gen 3 tech suit also features the return of an exospine. This semi-rigid structure is made of the same metal as the armor plating and protects a fully articulated support structure beneath. The primary function of this exospine is to assist in dealing with the titanic forces from the power armor and the rigours a Spartan super soldier will inevitably put it through. This allows the armour to deal with the forces it generates more substantially than the wearer's own spine. The fact that this design feature has made a return suggests that at some point, either battlefield statistics gleaned from Spartan super soldiers operating in the field indicated that dangerous levels of force were being channeled through the Spartan's own spine due to the immense forces at work, and that adjustments should be made to avoid irreparable damage to the wearer should these forces increase at a commensurate rate based on the need for Spartans to consistently perform on the cutting edge of the armour's operational ability, or, more unpleasantly, some instances of severe spinal injury resulting in paralysis or death took place, and the lack of an exospine was the suggested cause. In either case, this is complete conjecture, but the re-emergence of a previously absent component is usually cause to question the motivation behind its revival. The hydrostatic gel layer is a hydrogelatin or water-based gel. It is blue in colour and serves the purpose of regulating temperature, as well as conforming to the wearer's body for a better fit within MJOLNIR. It can also be pressurised to protect the wearer from high G-forces, large impacts, and zero ambient pressure. The gel automatically adjusts its pressure based on what the sensor arrays tell the suit, but can also be manually overridden and overpressured to protect the wearer, although it runs the risk of inducing a nitrogen embolism. It can be surmised that the gel is an extremely advanced electrogel, being a long polymer chain gelatin that is responsive to electrical charges and changes its viscosity and volume from precisely controlled electric fields. In this regard, the gel acts as a mechanical pressure and counter-pressure suit, all in one. In zero ambient pressures, such as in the vacuum of space, the gel can pressurize to simulate one standard atmospheric pressure, enabling the wearer to continue to breathe, move and operate as usual, and in extreme pressures can create a counter-pressure so the wearer doesn't experience the immense levels of pressure that would make movement and even breathing nearly impossible. The counter-pressure enables the wearer to remain fully functional, even in extreme pressures or under immense G-force approaching 38 G. It would appear that the hydrostatic gel layer has also been refined to such a point, likely alongside other innovations, that enables the wearer to survive extremely large falls. Although it could just be for gameplay reasons, the Master Chief appears to be able to survive falls from far enough to achieve terminal velocity, utterly removing the need for a parachute or other fall mitigating technologies. Given that a fully armoured Spartan will achieve a terminal velocity of 165 meters per second, 370 miles per hour or 594 kilometers per hour, the fact that he doesn't need to reduce that speed at all and can just take the impact and walk it off is quite literally godlike.
For a brick, he flew pretty good.
The hydrostatic gel layer also features an armor lock system, where the gel's density is altered to completely seize up the entire system into a rigid posture. Doing so prevents muscle and joint injury from high impact, rendering the suit and the wearer completely stationary. In the event that the suit takes on excessive heat, for example from sustained high energy plasma fire, MJOLNIR has an exhaust port built into the suit that releases the gel, preventing the occupant from being burned or boiled alive. Sustained damage to the suit can cause the gel to become irreparably viscous, rendering it either partially or completely ineffective. At the innermost surface of the tech suit is the pressure seal. This component is a resistive composite that is entirely airtight and waterproof. It is treated with a coating of nanoparticulate synthetic copolymer specifically designed to be superhydrophobic, vacuum-proof and radiation-proof to alpha and beta waves, and resistant to gamma radiation. This component is the operative reason that allows a pressurized and breathable atmosphere to be maintained at all times, down to a zero ambient pressure and up to extreme ambient pressure, as well as being something akin to a radiation suit. The Gen 3 returned to the movement medium of the Gen 1 platform, with the return of the reactive metal liquid crystal layer. The Gen 2 platform, as I'm sure you know, made more comprehensive use and application of a polymuscle suit, which are basically very advanced electroactive polymer artificial muscles. But it was decided due to the raw power of the Gen 1's liquid crystal layer, and the Gen 3's design ethos of mixing the best of the two previous generations, the liquid crystal layer was the medium of choice. This layer is composed of a polymerized lithium niobosine, a material that was originally used to diffuse the static electrical buildup in ships' hulls during faster-than-light slip-space travel. It is a piezoelectric material, meaning that when it is mechanically deformed, it creates an electrical charge, a reaction which also works in reverse. When an electrical charge is applied to it, it mechanically deforms in shape. The material is amorphous, meaning it doesn't appear to have a crystalline structure and thus flows like a liquid. However, upon electroactivation, a crystalline structure is induced, giving it the properties of a solid. It is poured into a microcapillary system throughout the suit, where high power and accuracy microelectric fields can induce the crystallization geometry process and cause the deformations along the desired axis. So when the user sends the neurological signal for voluntary movement to their skeletal muscles, the suit interprets this signal and sends the relevant electrical signal to the capillary system surrounding the desired muscle group. The material mechanically deforms and creates movement. It frantically scales and amplifies user strength and features an optimization of the crystalline geometries not available to earlier platforms of the MJOLNIR versions. Although we currently lack direct lore or information regarding the specifics of the level of force increase afforded by the Gen 3, we can say with 100% certainty that it will be at the very least in line with the Gen 1 platform, specifically the Mark 6 and 7 platforms. So from that we can deduce that it gives the user around 5 times their unarmoured strength and increases their reaction time by a factor of 5. It is noteworthy to mention that the system cannot be scaled back or limited in any way, so only Spartans with their augmented physiology are able to harness the power of this system. The positive feedback loop that occurs as a consequence of Spartans moving the suit and the suit moving them as a response is all controlled by the force multiplying circuits. When the Spartan moves their body, the impulses are picked up by the Spartan's implanted cybernetic interface, and then transmits this information to the suit's movement systems, which then output a voltage to the desired polymerized lithium niobosine capillary system, which then contracts at the same time as the Spartan's muscles, resulting in a massive movement assist and an increase in muscle power. This allows the user greatly enhanced reflexes and strength, improving mobility and combat effectiveness in close quarters. Spartans have been recorded lifting warthogs, bending steel, and shattering concrete on the battlefield. The armour plating of the Gen 3 platform is seemingly identical to earlier iterations of the suit, and whilst from a lore perspective all we truly know of MJOLNIR is that it's built of a multi-layered titanium alloy of remarkable strength, I have previously hypothesized, based on the material properties of the armour and what we have seen the armour being capable of withstanding, that the particular permutation of the metal used is a titanium 50 grade 38 alpha-beta phase alloy with H hardening. For full details on the specifics, see my archive video on the titanium A armour, linked in the description down below and the card at the top right. The outer surface of the armour is coated in a refractive coating. Documented incidents with plasma weapons against the previous Mark IV armour that lacked this refractive coating and energy shields resulted in an almost instant breach of the armour due to the intense heat damage from the projectiles, which severely affected the Mark IV's operational effectiveness and usually mortally wounded the wearer. These incidents powerfully demonstrated the need for innovation. A crystalline metallic composite refractive coating is applied to the upper surface of the armour plating. Due to the optical and thermal mechanical properties of this material, the plasma from Covenant weapons is distributed over a much larger surface area, leading to heat being dissipated much faster and thus minimizing on localized heating of the armor plates. It may be a different feature of the Gen 3, or simply due to the fact that we've never actually seen any one platform of Mjolnir armor in a disassembled form before, but as revealed during the assembly of Master Chief's Gen 3, during the Become trailer, it became obvious that many of the armor plates are now centered around the spaced armor, or hollow plate design, as well as differing materials being implemented based on locale. As the torso armor is being assembled in particular, the muscular olive drab plating is shown being lowered and locked onto a matte black plate, already in situ underneath, with evidence of a gap existing between the two, as indicated by the manufactured protrusions from the inner surface of the green outer plating. This matte black layer shouldn't be mistaken for the titanium nanocomposite bodysuit, or the tech suit of Mjolnir, which does feature hard armor plating on the chest, but is quite a separate component from the hard exoshell of the armor plating itself. This harder black metal inner armor is quite evident, and features several independent plates or leaves of titanium that seem to be floating in between. This is the first time the multi-layered aspect of Mjolnir has been featured. From this, I can deduce that the outer olive drab green plating is bolted down onto the matte black backing plates, which itself is possibly made of perhaps a titanium carbide or other indescript composite, and sandwiched between these two are up to a half a dozen smaller component plates. This means that if the armor is struck by a round capable of penetrating, the round loses a great deal of its initial kinetic energy as it penetrates the outer green armor plating. Upon entering the inner space of the spaced armor, the round would then encounter the spaced component plates, slowing the round still further, and likely coming to a complete stop on the inner surface of the matte black backing plate of the respective armor plate. This provides immensely more ballistic protection from high velocity and armor piercing rounds than a single solid plate of equal thickness. While it is worth noting, as demonstrated on the Demolition Ranch, that just over 1.5 inches of titanium alloy can stop a .50 BMG black tip, the armor plating of Mjolnir is now confirmed at being 53mm, or a little over 2 inches in thickness, as specified by the AI known as the weapon during the events of the Z to Halo conflict, and its multi-layered design would likely increase this resistance to penetration from an array of calibers, based on proximity and angle of attack of course. This spaced nature also likely explains the reduction in weight from 500 kilograms to 400 kilograms, despite the armor's more bulky appearance as compared to the earlier Gen 1 models, upon which, at least its aesthetic design, took such heavy inspirations from. It is also worth noting the way in which the solid plates of the armor are created, again referencing the Become trailer. A molten metal is poured into a casting die under the influence of an artificial gravity field. The fact that the creation and assembly happens in microgravity but is otherwise moved and manipulated through the manufacturing process by artificial gravitic fields is interesting, given that gravity at extremes has interesting effects on matter, although in the absence of immediate evidence I will forego coming to a conclusion on the motivations of this in regards to the material science. The die closes, and when it opens, a component piece of the forearm emerges. The pressures involved in this process are anyone's guess, but I would argue that the pressure involved here is likely immense, and may involve extreme temperature or pressure changes picked and implemented at specific points in the phase transition to facilitate specific properties in the final product. Rapid cooling, for example, can induce an internal compressive stress, as seen in a Prince Rupert's drop, adding immense toughness to the material, or changes in pressures can induce specific phase changes at different rates, inducing a highly selective crystallization. The plate then passes through a chamber lined with what appear to be speaker drivers. This could be for two reasons. The first could be ultrasonic detection of casting defects. Since we have just seen this plate being cast, ultrasonic testing is often used to detect defects like cracks, voids, or porosity within the interior of a cast. The alternative is that the plate was undergoing an ultrasonic treatment for the solidification microstructure of the titanium alloy. A research paper published in 2016 by Zhen Liang et al. Concluded that the microstructure of test ingots was refined by ultrasonic treatment, while the microstructure of untreated ingots showed coarse dendritic grains. After the introduction of ultrasonic treatment, the solidification microstructure transforms from coarse dendritic to equiaxed grains, and the dendrites are also refined. This basically means that the molecular structure of the metal, otherwise known as the grain pattern, were completely reorganized and refined into a stronger, tougher orientation with just the application of ultrasound on the ingot. It stands to reason 500 years in the future this technology has been refined to such a point that the specialist titanium used in Mjolnir is molecularly strengthened by this process alongside a plethora of others that again I cover in my archive video on titanium armor. The removal of the oxidized surface slag from this piece is also a nice touch, although I would assume there is now tiny particulate waste metal floating around the facility. The plating, as with practically all previous iterations, covers the chest and back, lower and upper arms, hips and groin, lower and upper legs, feet and hands, and the helmet of course. The component parts of the armor plating are assembled from up to a dozen small constituent armor components, all locked together into the larger component pieces. Again, as featured in the Become trailer, the forearm of the Gen 3 is made of up to at least 11 outer armor plates, 2 or 3 internal plates, and an integrated component of the titanium nanocomposite bodysuit, all of which come together to create a single forearm assembly. Some of the plates are implanted with various additional systems such as the energy shield emitters obvious by the small visible light they produce, magnetic weapon and ammo holsters positioned at various points across the body, including the sole of the boots to enable sure footing and magnetic lock to the deck or hull surface in zero-G maneuvers, as well as an array of sensors for additional situational awareness and systems input, including but not limited to absolute pressure sensors, temperature sensors, air quality sensors, motion detector and quantum mirror for ultra-fine tracking resolution, ultra-clear audio microphone array and auxiliary loudspeaker systems for close proximity conversation, air intake and exhaust ports, electronic compass, altimeter, accelerometer, as well as an array of kinetic sensors allowing Mjolnir to track the impacts of projectiles and attacks on the armor itself and display a red directional haze in the HUD, informing the wearer of the approximate location and source of the attack, enabling the Spartan to know intuitively if they are being shot or attacked outside of their field of view. The armor also features airborne particulate sensors capable of picking up trace pheromones and other distinct odorants in the air. This can be interpreted by an AI to provide additional situational awareness to the wearer.
These are the banished.
Affirmative.
They smell even worse than I imagined.
You can smell them.
Well, an array of sensors in your armor can, and I analyze the input. You smell fine, by the way.
Unlike previous iterations of the suit, the Gen 3 comes with holographic emitters built into the inner wrist. In previous versions, if a Spartan wanted to liaise with their AI in a face-to-face manner, they'd have to remove the AI data chip from the socket at the back of the helmet and allow the chip to display the holographic representation of the AI, assuming the model of the AI data chip actually supported holographic projection. With the Gen 3, the Spartan need only gesture with an open palm, and the AI can manifest, hovering just above the Spartan's hand. The Gen 3 platform features passive camo systems made possible by a nanofilament adaptive coating. Unlike the active camouflage systems of the Covenant and Banished species, which bends light around the user with the advanced use of electromagnetic spectrum manipulation and renders the users practically invisible save for a small distortion in the air, and the passive camo systems of the semi-powered infiltration armor, which perform a similar function but are based on photoreactive panels that are extremely sensitive to overload. This new coating mimics the hue, texture and saturation of the surrounding environment by altering the filament's geometric topography, changing the apparent colour, texture and brightness, blending the suit into the background. In low light levels, this renders the wearer nearly invisible but increases the output heat of Mjolnir by 2% and also gives quite a clear magnetic signature. One of the most notable and prominent components on the back of Mjolnir are two large hardened modules over each shoulder blade, within which you can find the power supply control unit responsible for distribution of power across the suit based on where it is needed at any given time, and the more impressive mini nuclear fusion reactor. Nuclear fusion is one of the most significant breakthroughs in energy generation technology, taking two atoms of deuterium, isotopes of hydrogen, and fusing them together under high pressure and very powerful electromagnetic fields. The result is a helium-3 nucleus and the release of huge amounts of energy. The real marvel of the fusion pack is how small the reactor has been made, half the size of the standard fusion packs carried by Marines, yet able to produce continuous power for 15 years of continuous usage before maintenance and replacement are needed. The reactors are encased in a specially hardened casing so as to protect them from breach or damage. Each unit is also completely sealed, electromagnetically shielded and radiation proof. As a failsafe, there is a system that can be implemented to self-destruct the suit to keep the technological advancements it contains from enemy hands. A serial code is input and the system overcharges the fusion pack, resulting in the incineration of anything within 10 meters, followed by a detonation that completely destroys the suit, its occupant, and practically anything nearby, guaranteeing that nothing is left for the enemy to use or salvage. It is curious then as to why the Spartans that Master Chief found on Zeta Halo hadn't activated their failsafe system. It is either that they were too injured and thus delirious or in shock and forgot, or that there were no other Spartans or personnel nearby to activate it for them, as at least at this current time there is no evidence to support the idea that the process activates automatically upon the wearer dying. Otherwise, when Linda flatlined during the fall of Reach, John recovering her would have resulted in his death as well. For full details, see the linked video on fusion reactors in the description. During the Zeta Halo campaign, immediately following the fall of the Infinity, Master Chief was thrown from one of the ship's shuttle bays by Atriox. Mjolnir on its own is perfectly capable of surviving the transition from atmosphere and gravity to the vacuum of space. But the interesting point to note is that Chief then spent the next 6 months floating in space before the pilot known as Fernando Esparza recovered him. This was made possible by a new innovation to the Gen 3 platform known as Survival Mode. Given the period of time he was left in space, I think we can conclusively rule out that the suit just put him to sleep, because a person would still require water and nutrients and oxygen to survive, and 6 months is far too long of a period of time for Chief to remain in what would basically be a medically induced coma, even if the suit was giving him water and nutrients via a permanent intravenous port, assuming the Gen 3 platform has the ability to do this on top of maintaining a medically induced coma. No matter if Mjolnir does have the capability, providing 6 months of breathable oxygen is still outside of the boundaries of viability, at least until proven otherwise. Another argument could be that John's life was sustained by the presence of nanomachines, and while this could be a viable argument, given that the Gen 3 does carry nanomachines for the sakes of upgrading and repairing the suit, giving the blanket excuse of because nanomachines doesn't feel quite right. This leads me to believe the reason that Chief was able to survive for 6 months in space on his own is because the Gen 3 now contains miniaturized cryogenic stasis technology. This seems to be a much more likely explanation, because cryotechnology, even during the early years of the Human Covenant War, was small enough to be self-contained within a cryochamber, a tubular device approximately 9 feet in length and 4 feet in diameter, with most of this space needed for the actual occupant. And cryonics has been used by humanity and the UNSC since the earliest days of interstellar travel during the Domus Diaspora. During cryosleep, the body's metabolic processes are stopped entirely, preserving the occupant perfectly with no need for additional support of water, nutrients and breathable oxygen. As long as power is maintained, the person can remain in cryosleep indefinitely. It stands to reason that after nearly 200 years of use, the components that actually initiate and sustain the cryogenic process have likely been reduced in size to such a degree that they can be built into the Mjolnir Gen 3 platform, with the suit itself acting as the quote-unquote cryotube, and also being able to administer the chemicals needed to facilitate the cryonic process. This would explain why Chief was able to remain in space for 6 months with no water, food or oxygen, and then Mjolnir put itself into a standby mode, shutting down all non-essential systems with the exception of an IFF transponder and the cryogenic systems. This would then enable Mjolnir to sustain the person in survival mode for longer than normal, because under normal usage the fusion pack can provide power for 15 years. By shutting down most systems, this time limitation is extended dramatically, should it be required. It also explains why it was necessary for Esparza to reboot Chief's suit with a power surge to bring it out of survival mode, as the suit wouldn't know when it was safe to revive the occupant, leaving this decision-making process in the hands of an outside source. Basically meaning that if the Spartan finds themselves in a circumstance where the suit has to initiate a survival mode, the likelihood is something cataclysmic has happened, and as a consequence there will be rescue parties in the area at some point in the near future, so allowing the suit to be shut down and the IFF transponder to be initiated, but also keeping the occupant alive for extended periods of time, ensures that the Spartan will eventually be recovered by UNSC forces and then revived from the survival mode in the right circumstances. On top of this, and somewhat peripherally to the cryogenic suspension systems that may be included in Gen 3, the Gen 3 also features various medical administration and monitoring systems built into the suit, including biofoam injectors. Biofoam is an elastoprotein wound filler. It is an expandable, sterile spray with a local anesthetic, clotting agent, and antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal properties. If the wearer becomes injured, the biofoam injectors activate and fill the wound with biofoam, sealing the wound, stemming the bleeding, and giving some pain relief. The biofoam doesn't heal the user as such, and these serious injuries will still require medical attention. More superficial injuries can be repaired by the suit's inbuilt medical administration kits. These kits contain stem cell treatment sprays and nanomachines to aid in tissue regeneration and healing, and although it is still advisable to seek medical attention where possible, these features allow a Spartan to remain operationally effective for much longer than your average soldier. The suit has a medical routine that provides the user with stimulants to keep them alert, as well as a monitoring system which can detect when, where, and how severely the user is injured, and is able to display this information at will on the HUD, giving the user important biometric data about their current state of injury and performance level. Following sustaining the wound on his quadricep on reach, John 117 was operating at 96% performance only a day later. This was made possible by the suit's ability to administer medical treatment, as well as increase the assist ratio to his leg, thereby removing the need for him to use his quadricep at all, with the armour performing the motor functions for him, offset by his Spartan augmentations, allowing him to heal 10 times faster than a normal human. This newer platform of Mjolnir features an innovation on the earlier Mark 7 platform in regards to the repair of the armour plates. Both the Gen 2 and latter marks of the Gen 1 platform has a triply redundant repair and bypass node system so that damaged sections of the armour don't have an adverse effect on the functionality of the suit systems as a whole. However, the Gen 3 also features a repair system that is far in advance of previous models. With the Mark 7, the system carries nanomachines within the armour at all times, allowing the system to automatically begin the healing process of the suit. The suit usually had to be in standby mode or inactive for the repairs to actually take place, but could be manually overridden to force the repair process to commence early, although it ran significant risks of not only being ineffective or lesser quality of repairs, but also directed a large portion of the suit's power to the process, meaning the suit would function suboptimally for the repair duration, as the suit prioritizes the repair over peripheral systems and in some cases secondary and primary systems if the repair was significant enough. This obviously runs significant operational risks to the Spartan wearing the suit. Significant enough damage could still render these systems inoperable and lead to plate scarring. The Gen 3 takes this a step further and has increased the efficiency of this system. The suit can now undertake basic repairs of the armour while the Spartan continues to operate at their normal level. Severe damage still takes a significant amount of energy from the suit and can put the Spartan in a compromised position. However, the real innovation of this nanomachine system is the ability of the suit to automatically upgrade itself with new upgrade modules and devices, including doing so on the fly during battle. Not only does the suit assimilate the upgrade and build connections and integrations into the modules, but also rewrites its own BIOS and upgrades any firmware and software packages as needed to fully facilitate the upgrades. On several occasions during John 117's activity on Zeta Halo in 2560, the Master Chief came into possession of various upgrade modules that were used by fallen Spartans he encountered across the ring. These modules enabled Master Chief's Gen 3 to upgrade various systems of his suit that ultimately aided his progress and helped Chief invaluably in the conflicts that were laid ahead of him. The Gen 3 takes inspiration from the Gen 2 platform in regards of support packages and upgrades, but implements them in a much simpler but more robust manner. Where the Gen 2 would have a primary upgrade port on the lumbar of the armour where a single support and upgrade could be attached at any time, the Gen 3 makes use of multiple upgrade ports where the utilisation of upgrade cores give a single suit the ability to upgrade with 5 new capabilities at any given time. These upgrades are facilitated by the use of Spartan cores, upgrade stations that seemingly provide the suit with the additional firmware upgrades, nanomachines and BIOS updates to get the most out of the upgrade and iterate upon them over time. Each upgrade also features several independent enhancements and optimizations, and these upgrades include the grapple shot, which fires a nano-braided high tensile fibre and latches onto most surfaces, granting enhanced mobility and ability to traverse rugged terrain, including sheer cliff faces, with ease. Spartans have been seen making innovative use of the grapple to recover equipment and other objects to aid in their combat, as well as grappling directly towards opponents to close distance and engage in close quarters combat, to the surprise and bewilderment of their adversaries. The grapple can be upgraded with the Voltaic upgrade, which adds a stun gun-like effect to the grapple. This likely takes energy directly from the suit and channels an immense level of electrical current down the grapple line, which can incapacitate opponents if it makes contact with them. The quick shot upgrades allows the grapple to be retracted and reprimed for a second shot much faster, resetting the electromagnets and recharging the capacitors in a faster, more efficient manner. The first strike upgrade adds an EMP enhanced strike upon grappling to an opponent. When the distance closes, the Spartan can utilise their momentum to deliver a bone-crushing punch and a large discharge of electromagnetic energy. And the Reachfall upgrade increases the size and strength of the EMP effect, allowing electricity to arc to other adversaries stood nearby, briefly incapacitating them long enough for the user to conclude their strike and ready their weapon for direct engagement. The shield core is a small circular upgrade core which can be connected to the armour at one of the upgrade ports. The base unit immediately upgrades the energy shields of the Gen 3 with optimizations in energy efficiency and shield geometry, resulting in an increase of shield strength of 115% from base. All following 4 upgrades to the shield core, the Fortress, Bastille, Redoubt and Citadel, iteratively increase this shield strength by a further 15% per upgrade, combining to a 60% increase on top of the 115% base the shield core comes standard with. The threat sensor allows enhanced situational awareness on the battlefield. This device is an attached handheld spring-loaded pump which fires a small scout projectile that tracks enemies through walls and terrain, granting its user a silhouetted representation of the foe displayed on the HUD, similarly to the visor upgrade for the ODSTs and the Gen 2 platform. However, the threat sensor allows the user to see the enemies even if a direct line of sight cannot be maintained. Upgrades include increasing the radius of the sensor, adding a second sensor for detection in more than one location at a time, a reduced device cooldown enabling it to be used more often, and a telemetry readout of the enemy's estimated health. Another usable support upgrade is the deployable cover, a small device which could be carried and deployed at will by the user. The deployable cover creates a powerful but brief energy barrier, which allows projectiles to pass through it from the cover side but stops projectiles from the enemy side. This can be upgraded with the Swift Shelter, which reduces the device's cooldown by 20%, the Rampart, which boosts its strength by 35%, the Blockade, which further increases the strength by another 70%, as well as making the shield area much larger, and the Direct Current upgrade, which imparts an electrical charge to projectiles passing through the cover from the user's side, giving the rounds an EMP-like effect. The thruster connects to the lumbar of the Gen 3 and enables sudden bursts of immense speed in any direction, enabling a Spartan to outmaneuver even extremely agile adversaries on the battlefield. This can be upgraded with the Afterburner, which allows another charge impulse, thermal control, which reduces the cooldown and enables the thruster to be used more frequently, impulse, which boosts the power of the thrusts, allowing further and faster travel, and escape velocity, which employs the Gen 3's passive camo systems and grants the user a brief camouflage upon thrusting to elude enemies nearby and grant a brief moment of near invisibility to utilize in combat and gain the strategic edge. The repulsor mounts on the same mounting point that the grapple shot mounts to, meaning that generally speaking, the grapple has to be removed to allow the repulsor to be fitted. However, it does stand to reason that the repulsor could probably be mounted on the other forearm mounting position. Nevertheless, the repulsor creates a very powerful repulsive anti-gravitic field that can shove enemies away at great distance, prevent vehicles from colliding with the user, clear areas of debris, stop projectiles like rockets and other ordnance, saving the user from harm, and even send a thrown grenade back towards the enemy at great speed. The active camouflage module is a small circular device which is picked up and connected to the chest of the Gen 3 via what is assumed to be an internal electromagnetic coupling, for a powerful but temporary invisibility cloak. In this regard, it can be considered more as a temporary armor plug-in. The module generates a light refracting energy field that bends light around the user, making them invisible, save for a small but noticeable shimmer in the air caused by the imperfect refraction. The cloaking effect only lasts as long as the module has enough energy to generate the field. Once drained, the device automatically shuts off, making the user visible once more, and with no more energy in the module powering the electromagnetic coupling, the device dislodges from the armor and falls to the ground to be discarded. The overshield module operates very similarly to the active camouflage module. It is again a small circular device that can magnetically couple to the chest of the Gen 3 and generates its own overshield on top of the Gen 3's built-in energy shield systems, granting the wearer a brief time of immense resistance to damage. Again, the shield remains in place until it either takes too much damage and fails, or until the module drains its energy and dislodges from the armor to be discarded. The energy shielding system has seen innovations and performance enhancements implemented continuously since its first use on the Mark V Gen 1 platform. The armor generates an extremely powerful oscillating electromagnetic field which operates strikingly well at repulsing ballistic and energy weapons via some clever applications of known physics. Very powerful electromagnetic fields can levitate even non-magnetic objects. The energy shield reduces the velocity of an incoming ballistic projectile to a near standstill. This sudden and extreme change in velocity induces an immense level of heat within the projectile, mainly due to its own internal friction caused by the sudden change in inertia, thereby causing the round to thermally expand and destroy themselves, or flash vaporize. This is not without consequence, however. The heat from this process, as well as the distortion of the electromagnetic field, induces a large amount of thermal energy which is carried by the electromagnetic field back to the emitters. The shield emitters are sensitive to too much heat, and once the shielding has taken sufficient damage, the emitters shut down briefly as a safeguard to avoid permanent damage. But it isn't a universal occurrence. Not every shield emitter will fail. Only the emitters nearest the attack are overwhelmed with thermal energy and shut down, but this causes the entire shield to fail due to the now incomplete shield geometry. During this time, the shielding fails, and the residual electromagnetic energy around the armor plates bleed off via high voltage static electrical discharge, showing the characteristic sparking we are all accustomed with. The pulsing we see from the shield emitters is caused by them attempting to start up again, but being unable until the emitters that shut down have dumped their excess heat and can reinitiate the shielding altogether. This enables the shielding to completely repulse ballistic projectiles, until the aforementioned shield failure due to the sustained fire and build-up of backfeeding thermal energy. In the case of energy-based weapons, this process is sped up due to the higher innate heat of an energy-based projectile, with overlapping effects from the projectile's own electromagnetism, causing the shielding to fail more rapidly under plasma fire than ballistic. Made of the same material as the armor plating, the helmet is the face of Mjolnir, sporting the olive drab armor plating on the outer surface. A gold polarized visor is the model standard, although different visor colors can and are often seen on the battlefield. The armor plates are mounted to a heavy-duty but lightweight chassis or frame, which itself is the mounting point for many of the internal components within the helmet. Inside of this still is the pressure seal, which links directly to the neck armor and completes the suit's strong hermetic seals. The helmet has an ultra-clear microphone array and speaker array built into the helmet to allow the user to hear outside of the suit's sealed systems, as well as communicate both out loud and over radio communications. The helmet also contains air filtration systems. The air intake is on the side of the helmet, where the air is pulled in and filtered, altogether capable of filtering 100% of particulates, toxins, pathogens and molecules from the air. The air is pumped into the helmet just left of the mouth, and exhaled air is sucked out from an exhaust vent just right of the mouth, passing through yet more filters to the external exhaust vent on the right of the helmet. In the event of the suit entering a vacuum or underwater, the external vents can be sealed and a rebreather unit activates. The helmet also houses a torch and mission camera, as well as connection hardpoints for various additional systems to be directly connected to the helmet. The helmet contains a full heads-up display built into the visor, capable of displaying mission-critical and situational awareness data. A visual display from the motion sensors is visible, with yellow blips showing as friendly units and white as neutral units, with red indicating foes. The systems inside also detect the weapon being held and display a targeting reticle matched to the angle and trajectory of the barrel and thus the rounds to be fired. It gives a visual image of the weapon being held and its current ammunition capacity, all being fed from the weapon in question or calculated by the system itself. The shield recharge bar is clearly visible, and the system will display a red directional haze around the target in reticle to inform the user if they're taking incoming fire from behind or beside them. Again, this information is fed from sensors on the armor plates. The visor comes with a built-in zoom function, effectively magnifying the light coming through the visor and redisplaying it in a zoomed aspect ratio, granting up to 4 times zoom. The HUD is also capable of visor overlays in different spectrums of light, including far infrared, ultraviolet, as well as a fused mode which mixes dozens of different spectrums and functions into a single cohesive HUD overlay. This can be used to provide the user with enhanced situational awareness, better visibility in low light conditions, as well as less than ideal atmospheric conditions which may obscure visibility at a distance. It also features a smart scope system able to link wirelessly with weapons and display the scoped view as a full-face display, particularly good for long-range shooting accuracy. The system also detects any holstered weapons or grenades and can display waypoints, objectives, and place markers above friendly units' heads, as well as target units. And a very subtle but useful overlay of a compass and helmet pitch is also discreetly visible on the HUD. Many additional pieces of information can be displayed ad hoc based on the needs of the time. The Spartan can also access a systems menu where various diagnostic tools, features and rosters can be accessed. The Gen 3 BIOS is firmware designed to be the first code run by Mjolnir when activated. The initial function of the BIOS is to identify, test and initialize system devices such as the heads-up display, the energy shield systems and other hardware. The BIOS handles most of Mjolnir's software functions when initiated. Updates to the BIOS allows newer hardware to be supported and function. Unlike in previous Mjolnir variants, the BIOS can be viewed on the standard HUD. The suit also possesses other upgrade features that enhance the wearer's abilities. It has upgraded heads-up display linked to sensors that project shield strength and improved motion detection systems, in addition to providing other numerous readouts, including allies' vitality and shield status should they be wearing Mjolnir, which in itself includes a lot of biomedical readouts, allowing a Spartan to know the actual physical condition of their other fellow Spartans. These features are maintained and initialized by the Mjolnir Gen 3 BIOS firmware. The Gen 3, as with many of the previous Mjolnir platforms, feature AI integration systems. There are AIs that manage Mjolnir's BIOS and visor, and they are generally passive helpers and of the dumb AI variety that integrate, prioritize and even subtly alter the torrent of data and sensory overrides fed to the armor's Spartan user. simplifying the chaos of the battlefield and reducing confusion. These AIs also handle mundane administrative tasks by filing munition expenditure forms, battle damage assessments, kill reports, and other paperwork on behalf of the Spartan. As with the previous Gen 2 version, a typical suit of MJOLNIR Gen 3 carries around a dozen or so of these dumb AIs, each specialised in numerous tasks of war and science to aid the Spartan they are attached to. While these AIs are incapable of human oversight, they are still a valuable component of the armour. But on top of this, the Gen 3 also still features the AI integration in that it can carry a smart AI via an AI port at the back of the helmet, as well as carrying enough internal superconducting crystalline data processing material to fully facilitate the function of a smart AI. The System Peril Distributed Reflex, or SPIDER counter-intrusion measure, is an automated program utilised in the Gen 3 platform to counter the threat of the created. Since AIs are capable of infiltrating and sabotaging MJOLNIR armour, rendering the Spartan incapacitated or ineffective on the battlefield, it was deemed necessary to have a subroutine built into the armour which can counter and prevent AI intrusion into MJOLNIR's systems. The system is also seemingly utilised as a redundancy system in case a previously consensual AI interface becomes compromised. This system then grants the Spartan the ability to abort the connection and either contain or delete the AI from MJOLNIR's systems. Visual Intelligence System Reconnaissance, abbreviated to and pronounced as VISOR, is a specialised data management system for MJOLNIR. Although originally used in ODST helmets, the innovative system has seen retroactive integration into the MJOLNIR program to immense success. The Visor's primary functions are giving simplified HUD readouts for battlefield data, including but not limited to navigation, intelligence, communication, compass bearing, key locations, integrated mapping, inventory, waypoints, upgrades and support packages, audio logs, target dossiers, and more. Visor is capable of managing a Spartan's disparate sensor feeds, BattleNet links, and suit diagnostic messages. The Gen 3 is the single most advanced and accomplished MJOLNIR platform to date. It is immensely powerful and highly adaptive, with the best parts of the design ethoses of the Gen 1 and Gen 2 versions before it. It is a return to form for the MJOLNIR program and is already seeing extensive use with the Spartan 2s, 3s and 4s, and enables the Spartans to continue to operate above and beyond all possible human standards and go toe-to-toe with enemies of superior size, speed and strength, and emerge victorious. While this was an extensive look into the Gen 3 platform, we are still very much in the early days of our understanding of emergent lore for this new platform, and with further information and lore to be revealed to us in the coming months and indeed years, I will of course revise and revisit the Gen 3 should it be necessary. I'm also considering returning to form in regards to doing separate most detailed breakdowns or archive videos of each of the major variants of MJOLNIR dating all the way back to the earliest versions of the MJOLNIR Gen 1 platform, all the way through to the newest, most cutting-edge Gen 3 variants. If this is something you'd like to see, head to the comments and let me know which one I should cover first. And while you do that, I'll finish off with saying, thanks for watching, commenting, liking and subscribing. I just want to give a quick shout out to my patrons and YouTube members: Spartan10148, my Metarch, Dylan, Falcon X003, Kenwood, Irrefutable Justice, Leon, Neek and Ramiz, my monitors, Alvin, Andrew, Brand, Brian, Cameron, Chris, Darian, Devon, Flaming Halo, Greenblood, Kyle, Legions Lost, Michael, Prophet Bear, Spartan and Wolf, my sub-monitors, my fleet of Strato Sentinels, my diligent enforcers, and all the other awesome people that have jumped aboard to support the channel over at Patreon. Another shout out to Todd Morrison, my Transcendent YouTube member, and just one quick reminder to support us on all major social media channels including Discord. Much love from 00. Take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.